Okay, we're back with part two with Coach Tucker, Mr. Tucker, if you weren't a track athlete. And we covered the first part, we covered the history, how he got here to New Haven. And we're going to start, again, we'll do 30 minutes, so we'll see what we can get in this next 30 minutes. But I told him I wanted to cover a little bit prior to him getting here. And I'm going to mention some names because a lot of these people probably don't get remembered either. The first individual state champion was Miriam Otten back in 1984 with the 3,200 meter.
Yep.
And he had Scott Backus won the 1,692. Is it Mikko?
Kalish?
Yeah, he won it in an exchange student from Germany. He won it in 95, 1,600. Then you had Angie McBride's, like, there was quite the run before Coach Tucker got here.
Oh, yeah.
Started in 95. You had Angie McBride winning the 1,600 and a 3,200. That's almost amazing to do two distant runners in one day. Was it?
Well,
was
they
it 2
split
days?
it. The
Okay.
1,600 is on a Friday and the 32 on a Saturday, or vice versa. So they're only, but now she was probably in a 4x8, which would have been run on one of those days, either opposite the mile or the 32. So, I mean, she definitely got her.
And you know,
time
it's been so long ago because we're looking at 30 years ago already. But was she just like destroying? I don't remember. Was she destroying like everybody around here too? And or in a conference, or I mean, I know when you get to big schools, there's a lot more talent there.
Well, and the problem is I don't know the answer to that. I have to believe she was, because you just look at her times, and those would have been competitive.
Anyone watches this, if you want to make a comment in the video, but so that was 96. Natalie Welshman won the 800. 96, Alicia Cook, Natalie Welshman, Angie McBride, and Monica Outlaut won the 4x4. 97, Alicia Cook, Courtney Haynes, Amanda Lowney, and Angie McBride. That was a 97, won the 4x4. Angie McBride won the 800 and 97 and the 1,600. And then we get to Coach Tucker.
Yep.
And obviously it's big shoes to fill when you lose a stud like Angie.
It was, and then I had been, you know, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, and it just kind of dawned on me, but I had been told of the history. I knew of Angie McBride's, you know, what she had done, and actually, funny enough, the year I student taught at Kirkwood High, I coached cross country, and that would have been fall of '96, and I was at the state meet, and Heather Elsner was running with Angie McBride and that team that I think finished, I don't remember now.
Let me see here. I'm going to look it up.
I'll keep going. But I went to them and went up and because I knew Heather was running, and just, hey, said to the team, and I had no idea I was coming to New Haven. Just good luck. You guys run hard, and watched her race. I was really impressed with how they ran that.
So this is what I'm saying right now, and I'm a huge basketball fan. There may be more of a track dynasty here in New Haven than any other sport, because I'm going to read you. We're leading up to when you got here. 95, they got second in cross country, girls.
Yeah, okay.
96, they got second in girls track. 96, they got second or third in cross country.
That's the year I saw.
97, they got second in track, which would have been your year.
No, that was Kurt's last, and that was
year.
Angie's. That was a lot of Angie McBride.
So those potentially right there with all the other individual state champions during that run, it could have been unbelievable here.
Well, and I'm not trying to toot a horn, but I think I have 15 Final Four finishes with 3 state titles. That's amazing. I mean, and I have that because of the athletes I had. I mean,
yeah, but I always say with coaches, you can have the athletes. There's a lot of people that have athletic teams of any sort. If they have no coaching, and the same can go the other way. You could be great coaches, and you could get a subpar team. It just don't underplay.
We can't help it.
Coach Russell did here. Obviously, it took some, because to be honest with you, nothing against Mr. Moran. When I was in school, he was the superintendent, and I did shot put, but it had a few. But I think even then, Miriam may have done it all on her own. I have no clue.
You know, I meant to go back and look at. I have David Menke's book. I don't know who coached her. It might have been her dad. I just don't remember.
I have the book too, but I didn't because I had so much other data on here. So let's get going. Did you have a meeting? When was your first day actually here? Would have been August, or did you come in prior to?
I moved out here August 1st because that's when my my lease.
Started.
No, well, no, I didn't have to be here contractually until that would have been 2 weeks later. But that's when my lease started. I rented the Freitag's farmhouse on Highway E, and so I moved out. And I was going to get settled, and you know, and I had to get ready for cross country. I had met with some kids when I signed my contract and got names of kids who were going to run cross country in the fall. I sent some information to them from St. Louis, but I wanted to get out here 2 weeks before the season started and get to know. And
So obviously then there probably wasn't a lot of preconditioning, like, because they don't have things in summer now.
Oh, they do.
I see the kids in Herman running a lot in packs in the summertime.
Sure,
Obviously,
sure.
you starting. I didn't know if
I didn't do any of that because I wasn't out here.
Okay.
Now, every year after, we had optional summer running. Misha gives you requirements on how many contact days. But yeah, I mean, we were doing summer running my second year, my first full summer.
so. You start here, would have been cross country,
Yep.
and
Girls team finished 6th that year, which I think we could have improved upon because Monica Utlot was our stud. But Heather Elsner hurt her knee, and she was a good runner. I'm not a top runner, but a good middle of the pack runner that you need to get the points you need to do well at state.
so you mentioned Monica. Did she split volleyball and cross country? Because I thought she played volleyball. Did she quit volleyball?
She quit volleyball. All she did is run cross and track for me.
Okay.
And that was an interesting time because she loved Kurt. And I don't blame her. Kurt was a great coach and a lot of fun to be around, and he knows a ton. And there was a while, it took easily into October before Monica would really give me a break. She was upset Kurt had left. But I won her over eventually, and we have good memories.
So you got 6. So at what point? Obviously, you have to wait for the basketball girls to get over with to do track. But were the numbers similar? As many people that obviously when Kurt left here, a lot of people probably lost. Like, I don't know about this new guy coming in.
Sure,
Were
I
the numbers
lost a
similar?
couple. I lost a couple kids. I remember having a meeting in probably January before my first season, so, winter of '98, and I talked about my expectations and that we might have to do some stuff. And I remember a girl who was a senior, I'm not going to say her name, but she just got up and said, "Well, this isn't for me," and just walked out. And I was like, that I wasn't expecting it. It kind of shocked me.
Okay,
but,
without mentioning it, most people may know, would she have been a big contributor to that?
she was a thrower. Maybe. I mean, I don't know in the end because I never saw her compete. I don't think it hurt us. I've had, and I look back on this over the course of years, you try not to take it personal. It changes. They don't want to do something, or it's a new coach, whatever. And I tried not to let it bug me. And once the season started, I didn't think about it anymore. It's, you're here, you want to work with me, let's see what we can do.
So when you did your student teaching, obviously you're a runner, you surely didn't know much about not javelin,
Well,
discus or shot put.
I knew nothing.
So did you go to like a clinic before? Or
I had Dave Leakey.
Okay.
Dave Leakey was my throws coach.
And he was he?
He worked with Kurt.
Okay.
He was an assistant under Kurt. And then,
I asked Mr. Leakey to come out, and he said he couldn't do it. He had other things to do today. But
well, the mayor is busy.
Yeah. So that's good. You had someone with some.
Yes, because and we had some throwers who could contribute. You think about in '02 when we won state, Carolyn Rigi scored points. Yeah. So I mean, I couldn't have done it without Dave.
So when we were talking in the first section, you obviously don't have a track like they have now.
No.
So where did your distance, and I know I see them run a lot, even off the track in Herman.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how primarily you did your distance, or would they just go around?
They would go on road runs
Okay.
To build their distance base, and we would do speed workouts on this track. It's close to 400 meters if you use the little chat gravel and this asphalt. It's a little under it. It's close, and so okay, we're gonna do 800s today, and they do 2 laps on here. We time them, give them recovery. So, and you think about it, there's a little hill over there, and they ran up that hill.
Yeah.
I would stand down at that end with my stopwatch, and they came up that hill every time. And if you talk to any of those kids who did those, they hated that hill.
Well, and you don't really know how much incline there is until you sit here and you look down. But I also wondered, because I wanted to ask you, them having to run on that stuff with really no traction, do you think that helped at all in their, kind of a different resistance that they're?
I think it probably helped us injury-wise because we ran on a lot of varied surfaces. I would do, build-ups and accelerations and some flies on grass. We'd run on some asphalt. We'd run on the chat. And I think when you stay on the same surface all the time, it starts to beat you up. By moving to different surfaces, it helps. And I think in some ways, not having a real track, we probably avoided stress fractures and a lot of these other, repetitive injuries, tendonitis and things, because we were able to vary. We had to vary it.
Did you, and we're going to promise we'll get going here, but did you
It's all
do
right.
a lot of hill work with those as far as
Distance?
really,
Yeah. Oh,
really
yeah.
getting, hey, we're going to go get Sunset Lane, we're going to run.
Oh, yes,
We did that
yes.
in basketball, and I will tell you, I never liked to run. I could run on the basketball court for hours,
Sure.
but just to go run, I was like, some schools may not have the advantage of being around hills, and I didn't know how much hill work you did for.
Oh my gosh, tons. I loved running hills. And it almost to the point where my cross country teams, if we ran on a flat course, they hated it because they were so used to hills. It's a different type of running when it's all flat as opposed to,
You're kind of leaning forward. You're
well, and your different energy
Yeah.
release as you're climbing that hill and how smart, how do you run these things? And they hated running on flat. So, which was great when we went to state when it was in Jeff City. It was hilly as all get out. We loved it.
So
Anyway, but
you're in the spring of '98, and did you guys? Obviously, you gauged some success from your conference meets that you had.
yeah,
Did you guys do fairly well against the larger schools, or?
our 4x4 was competitive. And Amanda Lowney ran hurdles, the 100 and 300, I believe. And we had other kids doing other things, but our 4x4 was very competitive, and we could run with the best of them. That's when Washington was in our conference still, and no, we couldn't run against Washington. But other conference schools, when I had, Class 1 state caliber runners, we could compete with the Class 3s, 4s, for sure.
So, going into here before I continue, did you think before state, you're like, you know what, obviously you're probably checking some times of other schools. Were you guys up near the top when you were comparing them, or were you guys?
The data wasn't as available as it is today, and I was never a data-driven person in terms of, I didn't care what anyone else was doing because it's what we have to do, and I knew that the time as a team we were hitting in that 4x4 was competitive. Now, I didn't know it was going to be state title. But I knew we could run hard. And again, I inherited those 4 girls from Kurt, and they had already won once, and they wanted a second one. So they, I was, again, very fortunate that they were willing to listen to me, do what I said, get in shape, and run the race the way I thought it should be run.
So looking here, on '98 you had Amanda Lowney, which was on the 90-17.
Mm-hmm.
You have Alyssa Cook that was on the 97.
Yep.
You had Courtney Haynes, which was on there.
Yep.
And then you had Chrissy Lincolnholder.
Mm-hmm.
She basically replaced Angie on the.
Right.
And you guys won the 4x400 relay in '98.
Yeah, that was my first state victory.
And let me look here. Okay, you didn't.
That's all we did. I
was
think.
looking at the state finals to see if you guys did anything else.
I don't think we did.
That was actually your first state championship in your life.
Yep.
And we're going to cover this as we go. Obviously, that was probably a high for you.
Oh boy, yes.
Even though that you did not race, it was like, hey, with these girls.
Oh, I live vicariously through my athletes for sure.
Well, so I don't forget, was there more excitement when winning that, or was it more excitement winning your first team title, state title? And I know that may seem a little corny, but
No. It's more, gosh.
I don't even know if you've ever thought about that.
I haven't. They were different. Nothing will replace getting 4 girls to a state title. That was awesome at the time. But then, I remember walking out and looking over the state and holding that trophy and being like, oh boy, I'm graduating all my talent. I want to do this again. I want this again, and I want it for my kids.
And little did you know it was coming up through the ranks, but
yeah, it was going to take a while, but
it was probably, and I don't mean intimate, it was probably a little more intimate feeling that you were those the only 4 that qualified out of district, 4x4. Do you have
I think it was us. I just think it was us.
It was you 5 people. Did you have an alternate on there, or do you remember?
I don't think I did.
Okay, so it was you 5. You kind of went through the path together. So it was probably a little bit closer feeling.
Oh yeah.
Having a whole team is like, well, Coach Lakey's over there doing a shot put. Yeah, they made it, but I'm doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So. And it continues after that. You have a group that you didn't know was coming up, probably.
Oh boy, and I was super fortunate. And when we look at every state title and all these Final Four finishes, there was a group that came up, and we were successful freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. We finished third in state in '99, and that was with Laura Brandt as a freshman, Lindsay Meyer. Courtney was on that team. We had a small group that did a lot. And the stuff we did, we were successful at. I mean,
so obviously that summer going into 99, 98, 99, you had what you said now, you had some voluntary, I guess, running the summer, so you had a little bit better feel, and the people that were coming back kind of knew, hey, this is what Coach Tucker expects and what we're going to do. So in 99, you guys won the 4x200.
yep.
And you had Laura Brandt, Courtney Haynes, Lindsay Meyer, and Erica Munzik.
Yeah.
And let me get back to this extra photo here. Did you... 99, you guys got third in state.
Yes. And that we were third that year, the next 3 years. So again, I kind of focus in, and it's not that the other girls didn't help, but Laura really was our point getter. I mean, she anchored the 4x2. She led off in the 4x4 because I had an unorthodox view that you put your fastest person first and you get a lead and then you maintain it. Not always what you do. We got a lot of state titles doing that.
Is it normally the other way around?
Yeah, and you know, coaches will say, I mean, statistically speaking, that's how you should do it. Your fastest person should be last, and your slowest is third, and you build up a lead, and if you lose a little, then you're... But I just knew that we had enough talent that if we got a lead, we weren't going to lose it.
Well, how many people you think folded, though, mentally, when they saw Laura out, how far ahead, and it was like, shit, now we got to...
Yep.
We got to make up for all this because there's such... It had to affect the other teams.
Well, and
mentally.
I was thinking about that. You know, not that I want to mess with someone's head too much, but I knew what it felt like when someone, you know, busted out one. And it's like, God, how are we going to catch that? You know. So
it's kind of an unusual run here. So in 2000, 4x200 champions again, same team. 2001, 4x200, you lost.
Courtney had
Haynes,
graduated,
and you brought in Kelly Veland.
Yep.
So you won 3 years in a row the 4x200, and we already talked about how you got third 3 years in a row.
And I think we finished the 4x4. I think we had some
4x4 in 2001 was Laura Brandt, Lindsay Meyer, Erica Munzik, and Sarah Shelby, and you guys won the 4x400.
Okay, I knew there was that one was in there somewhere.
And then you had the individual ones. So when you said Laura was the point girl, not the point man, point girl, point woman.
Yeah.
She also won individual titles in the 200 and 400 in 2001.
So there's 40 points right there. And if you get first place, it's 10 points in track and field. So. And it doesn't matter if it's an individual or four. And a lot of people will say, well, you put your fastest person individual because you got one person earning 10 points. And I have never believed that. It's like, if I can put 4 girls on the track or 4 boys and we can get 10 points, great. I don't care where it comes from.
Yeah.
And everyone says track is an individual sport. It is. However, relays are team. And it allows you to get some excitement. And there's something exciting about being on a team. You know that.
Yes.
You were on teams. And it allows you to bring that element into a primarily individual sport. And so it creates enthusiasm. At least that's what I thought.
Now, I will tell you, I want to ask before we continue down through the years, about every successful ball team of any kind of ball, there's some animosity or some jealousy or some, some riff on there.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel during these first years of runs here that, hey, Laura's getting all the attention? Hey,
if it was there, it was never present. I do know of one instance that happened at a track meet, but it wasn't directed at Laura. Laura was a team player. It wasn't about I'm Laura Brandt and I score all these points. It's what can I do to get my team there.
Yeah.
And so, but there was some tension as we got into those last 2001, 2002, a little, dare I say, drama, which that was the first time I had to face that. But otherwise, really not. And I would say, even in the cross country teams later on and the track teams that did well, if it was there, I didn't notice it, and it didn't affect how we performed in the meets. That doesn't mean there wasn't something there, but it wasn't major.
Okay, we're going to cover this first. We get into 2002, the spring of 2002. Quite the spring, because the girls also won a girls basketball title, and I'm going to get sit down with Coach Melanie Schmidt at some point if we can.
Oh, that would be great.
She's supposed to be coming here to visit at some point, so hopefully I can get in the gym, but I'm going to sit down with her, maybe some players. So we're going to cover your 2002. You guys were the state championship 1A, first time in New Haven history. You had Cassie Bates, Kathy Brandt, Laura Brandt, Lindsay Meyer, Carolyn Riggy, Sarah Shovey, Kelly Velan, and you had alternates Jill Cluppy and Taylor Parsons. And you were assisted by Coach Leakey, and your managers were Jared Prisner and Stephanie White. And then let's get back to the individual. 2002, Cassie Bates, Laura Brandt, Lindsay Meyer, Kelly Velan won the 4x200.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys won the 4x400 again. Laura.
200, 400.
And so Laura, Lindsay, Sarah Shovey, and Kelly Velan, and Laura won the 2 and 4 again, back-to-back state champions.
And I think in 2002, at that time, I don't remember how many points we scored, but I remember the All-State T-shirt, and everyone who went, besides the alternates, scored points for us.
Okay. Do you guys remember if you won it pretty
Oh no,
it
was like the highest point total
okay.
in Class 1 at that time. It has been surpassed.
Okay.
It was in the 50s, I think, but yeah, we dominated.
Okay.
And that was fun.
So is that the year, I suppose, that group of girls were all seniors?
Yes, it
correct?
was. Yeah. And the bummer is that the girls who were juniors that year, Kelly Velan, I think, and Sarah Shovey, maybe they were sophomores. Anyway, we bumped up to Class 2 the following season.
Which it gets tougher and tougher
Oh boy.
every class you go up.
Well, and we went to a district at Orchard Farms, and Berkeley was there, and so all our sprints were done. I got 2 distance runners out. It's the reality.
Yeah. And at Berkeley, at one time was a 3 or 4A school, right?
Yeah. Oh, and they had won state
Yeah.
double digits. Skaggs was their coach, and
So obviously you lost a lot of talent there.
Sure.
And we're going to keep on going. We're at 22 minutes already. I'm saying this might be a 6.
Yeah, I
thing,
understand.
But we're going to cover all these, I promise.
Well, and I talk a lot.
This is when the boys kind of start showing up, the boys track. 2005, Nick Bates, Tim Hibbler, Jacobs, what's his first
Daniel
name?
Jacobs.
Daniel Jacobs and Mitchell Schilling won a state title with a 4x400.
Yeah, we ran 4:33, and that.
I don't know, is that pretty good?
Well, I was just going to say, I compared that to the Class 5. With Class 4, I'm not sure where they added that 5th class, but like against Kirkwood. What was their time? We could have competed with the big schools at state. We wouldn't have won it, but we would have been in the top 3 based on our time we ran at state.
Good.
Yeah, when you have the good athletes, I don't care how big your school is or how small, you can do stuff in track.
So then in 2006, I don't think people realize the run until you look at those boards in there. Now you remember them.
Oh yeah.
But because so many people are, again, basketball, volleyball, it's all this, but it's the run you guys had through these years. It's unbelievable. So 2006, is it April Brandt?
Yes.
Who was the Jacobs?
Tiffany. That was Daniel's younger sister.
And then Meyer. Brittany?
Yes, Brittany Meyer.
And then Mandy or Missy Mueller?
Missy.
And you guys won the 4x800 relay.
Yep. We had actually qualified the year before in the 4x4 out of Orchard Farm, but didn't do anything at state. I mean, we didn't make it to the finals.
Is it because you didn't run as well, or there was just so many good teams?
That many good teams. And honestly, I don't remember. I don't know that we ran all that well either.
Well,
it's been so long ago.
It's been,
yeah.
It's 28 years ago at that point. So, well, that was 2006. 2007, at any point, you're like, is this ever going to stop? When you sit back and look, you're like, something bad, someone's going to get injured.
Yeah.
Did you ever think of that? Or do you like, this just keep on going? This is almost unreal.
It does stop, though. It does stop soon after that. There's a blank period up there.
What I'm saying, even with the really good athletes, like someone's going to get Someone's bound to get hurt. Someone's about to tear
I had
something.
kids run through stuff. Daniel
Okay.
Jacobs used to get blisters the size of quarters on his feet from running the 400, and we'd put Band-Aids, all kinds of stuff, and he'd go out and run another one. So, I mean, I had kids who worked through stuff too.
Okay. So I don't know if I mentioned, 2006 was 4x8, and then 2007, April Brandt, Emily Carey, Brittany Meyer. Did you say Missy or Mandy?
Missy.
Missy Mueller won the 4x4, and then it kind of stopped there
Yep.
after 2007. Let me look to see if you guys.
We didn't do much else till the Seth Shank kind of era.
Yeah, because then that's when the volleyball and stuff kind of basketball, girls basketball.
Well, and I just had small numbers. You know, in cross country, I had qualified a team from 99, except for 1 year early on, like 02 maybe, and then I had qualified boys teams to state. Now, we hadn't done much. We got close 1 year, 05, but you know, we just didn't have the numbers, and you could just tell. I had 2 girls who could run really well on a relay, but you need 4, you know, or
Okay, before we continue here, because
Yeah.
we're at 26 minutes, like I said.
I'm gonna have a quick drink.
You can
But
drink
keep
whenever
talking.
you want. Do what you want. Because it's casual conversations with Coach Tucker today. Did you ever try to, through the years that you were here, I'm sure there's been a few that, because like, God, if I could just peel off some of these guys off and gals off the volleyball for
Oh, yeah, yeah,
cross-country
yeah,
or
yeah.
baseball, it's like
Oh yeah.
they could have so much success and
Oh, yeah.
help us out. So did you ever try to actively recruit them, or do you just like, hey, I don't want to step over the boundary? And
I was not I would gently try, but I respected baseball. I respected the other programs, that I was not going to work super hard to pull a kid away from another sport. I just wasn't going to do that. I would say, hey, you could have some success if you're not liking it, if you want to come do it. And, you know, I would talk to them certainly, but I couldn't do that to Ray.
Okay,
or,
so-
you know,
obviously you have to have so many practices in before you run, right? Just
Yeah.
like any other sport. If I was really good back in the day and you saw potential and I played baseball and I said, hey, Coach Tucker, I want to do this. I will volunteer to come in on Saturdays and Sundays, whatever, and practice, to count as a practice, and I want
Sure,
to do
sure.
both when I can. Was that a possibility back then?
No, it really isn't. And that was a philosophy, and that's a philosophy that New Haven has had ever since I've been here. It's not done. You make a commitment to a team. And if you think about it, let's say we got a boy who's playing baseball and track. Well, actually, it doesn't work so well there. It works great because it happened a lot with girls volleyball and girls cross country. Well, guess what? Our district tournaments are on the same day. Where are you going to send
Yeah.
that athlete? And a parent would tell me, oh, well, she'll go to cross country. And I was like, you don't know that. Your daughter may want to
Yeah.
go play volleyball, you know? And that was something that Ray emphasized. Jamie Hayner does still. Tim Strobel agreed with that. We focus on what we can do. And I was fine with that. I worked within the parameters that were set up before I got here. And like I said, I worked with such good people that if a kid did leave baseball and come to me, it wasn't, I mean, Ray was fine with it. But he also knew I was not pressuring these kids. I would talk to them, sure. I was excited if they'd do it, but I respected what the other programs did, and we all worked together well, I
Okay,
feel.
we're
Yep.
at a good breaking point because there's a 6-year stretch here. But we kind of it's only dry because there's so much success beforehand,
It is.
and that's why I say a dry period.
It is.
It's kind of like the 50s basketball here, and then it's like, well, it was a dry spell of 67, only
Exactly.
because there was so much success. But
Right.
Last question, because we're 29 minutes.
Sure.
I always said if I was a coach, I would say you are gentlemen and ladies first, and then your athlete or your students, and then your athletes. Was there a lot of emphasis put on you as a coach saying, hey, do the right thing and keep your grades up? And because there's some schools, hey, you're an athlete, we'll get you by. Just
Oh,
get your...
and there was,
I didn't know your philosophy on that or not. That was going to be my last question.
Sure,
Right.
yeah, and nothing was ever said to me by administration that you need to do this to encourage or anything
Well,
like
I'm
that.
asking if you did it.
Yeah, oh, yes, sir. Yeah, you are a student first. I like what you said, you're a good citizen,
Yeah.
and that was part of it. I said, when you go to a track meet or a cross country meet, you've got New Haven plastered all over you. that's a direct reflection on me, on the community, on everybody. You're gonna act the right way. You're not gonna be a bunch of hooligans. I mean, that was definitely I emphasized that.
Well, I didn't know because there's some coaches.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even
there are.
years ago, it was like it's all about winning. We don't care. I mean, especially
Winning's
at the
great.
college level now, is do what you want. You're gonna get your NIL money. We're gonna get you for a year.
Right.
You're gonna be gone anyway. But I didn't
Right.
know how much emphasis. And I know Mr. Strobel would have probably pulled the rope a little tighter on if it was this bunch of rogue athletes running around here.
Oh, he would have. I wouldn't want to think about the conversations him and I would have had in that office with the door closed. And
So-
that's enough. We never had those conversations. I didn't want to have those conversations.
So did he? Last question
Mhm.
for the break. Did he at any point in time, when you were having all the success, because we're reaching the dry point now?
Yeah.
Did he ever just? He did a handwritten note about what you.
Yeah, that one
Did
thing.
he ever just come up and say, "Man, you are doing a phenomenal job with this program"? Or
He used to refer to me as Johnny Tucker, the greatest track coach in the world, which I'm not, but I appreciated that. He appreciated what I did. Tim and I didn't see the world the same way. However, Tim had enough faith in me as an individual, as a coach, teacher, to let me do. Even though he'd tell me at times, "You're a fool," but he'd let me do it. And sometimes I'd prove him right, and sometimes I'd prove him wrong. And I did get inducted into my coaching affiliation, their Hall of Fame. And in my speech, I spent time talking, and Tim was in the audience, and I spent time talking about that. We did not agree all the time. We had a total different philosophy on how to train kids, how to work with kids, but he respected me enough to let me do it. I mean, he talked to me, but he'd let me do it in the end.
was he? I always say this is truly the last one.
It's okay.
Was he more on the hey, we need to? Because I know he was in the weight training. He got me into that, and
Sure,
I still
sure.
do it. 40 years later.
Yep.
Was he really big on, hey, we need to do some more of the strength training stuff? And you're like, no, is that when you're talking about training differences of philosophy? Because
No.
I truly believe he liked track after basketball.
He did. Oh,
And
he
above
loved track
volleyball
and
and
field.
baseball. He loved the track doing this out here.
He did. No,
So
and
I
he
didn't know
did.
if that was one of the things. You have to go into
No,
great
just
detail.
just how we would, how we approached coaching. He maybe was more a Bobby Knight approach, and I was more of a John Wooden approach. And I couldn't have coached like Tim, and Tim couldn't have coached like me, but we coached within our abilities. We got kids to respond. And he could see that in me, and I could see that in him. I respected his opinions, and I certainly took into consideration sometimes, but then other times I had to go with my gut and what I felt was right.
You should
And
have said, hey,
that's not my
hey,
personality.
Mr. Strobel, do you not see what I put on the wall here in the last how
That's
many
not my
years? I'm doing something
personality.
right. So let's take a break. I'm going to get me something to drink, and we'll be back.